Boutros Boutros-Ghali is an Egyptian politician and diplomat who was the sixth Secretary-General of the United Nations from January 1992 to December 1996. An academic and former Vice Foreign Minister of Egypt, Boutros Boutros-Ghali oversaw the UN at a time when it dealt with several world crises, including the breakup of Yugoslavia and the Rwandan genocide. He was then the first Secretary-General of the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie from November 1997 to December 2002. Early life and education. Boutros Boutros-Ghali was born in Cairo on 14 November 1922 into a Coptic Christian family. His grandfather Boutros Ghali had been Prime Minister of Egypt from 1908 until he was assassinated in 1910. Boutros Ghali graduated from Cairo University in 1946. He received a PhD in international law from the University of Paris and diploma in international relations from the Sciences Po in 1949. During 1949 to 1979, he was appointed Professor of International Law and International Relations at Cairo University. He became president of the Center of Political and Strategic Studies in 1975 and president of the African Society of Political Studies in 1980. He was a Fulbright Research Scholar at Columbia University from 1954 to 1955. Director of the Center of Research of The Hague Academy of International Law from 1963 to 1964, and visiting professor at the Faculty of Law at Paris University from 1967 to 1968. He is also the honorary rector of the Graduate Institute of Peace Studies, a branch of Kyunghee University Seoul. Political career. His political career developed during the presidency of Anwar el-Sadat. He was a member of the Central Committee of the Arab Socialist Union from 1974 to 1977. He served as Egypt's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs from 1977 until early 1991. He then became Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs for several months before moving to the UN. According to investigative journalist Linda Melvin, Boutros Ghali approved the secret $26 million arms sale to the government of Rwanda in 1990 when he was Egyptian foreign minister. The weapons stockpiled by the Hutu regime as part of the fairly public, long-term preparations for the subsequent genocide. He was serving as UN Secretary-General when the killings occurred 4 years later. UN career. Elected as Secretary-General, the top post of the UN, in 1991, Boutros Ghali's term in office remains controversial. In 1992, he submitted an agenda for peace, a suggestion for how the UN could respond to violent conflict. However, he was criticized for the UN's failure to act during the 1994 Rwandan genocide, which officially left over 1 million people dead, and he appeared unable to muster support in the UN for intervention in the continuing Angolan civil war. One of the hardest tasks during his term was dealing with the crisis of the Yugoslav wars after the disintegration of former Yugoslavia. His reputation became entangled in the larger controversies over the effectiveness of the UN and the role of the United States in the UN. Some Somalis believed he was responsible for an escalation of the Somalia crisis by undertaking a personal vendetta against Mohammed Farah Aidid and his Habrdgidr clan, favoring their rivals, the Dawit clan of the former dictator Mohammed Siad Barre. It was believed that he demanded the 12th of July 1993 U.S. helicopter attack on a meeting of Habrdgidr clan leaders, who were meeting to discuss a peace initiative put forward by the leader of the UN mission in Mogadishu, retired U.S. Admiral Jonathan Howe. It is generally believed that the majority of the clan elders were eager to arrange a peace. and rein in the provocative activities of their clan leader, Muhammad Farah Aidid. But after this attack on a peaceful meeting, the Klan was resolved on fighting the Americans and the UN, leading to the Battle of Mogadishu on 3–4 October 1993. Nomination for second term in 1996, 10 Security Council members, led by African members Egypt, Guinea-Bissau and Botswana, sponsored a resolution backing Boutros-Ghali for a second 5-year term, until the year 2001. However, the United States vetoed a second term for Boutros-Ghali. In addition to the United States, the United Kingdom, South Korea, and Italy did not sponsor the resolution, but the last 3 nations voted in support of Boutros-Ghali after the United States had firmly declared its intention to veto. Although not the first vetoed candidate, Boutros-Ghali was the only UN Secretary-General not to be elected to a second term in office. He was succeeded at the UN by Kofi Annan. Richard Clarke, Michael Sheehan, and James Rubin participated in what they called Operation Orient Express. Clarke wrote, "Albright and I and a handful of others had entered into a pact together in 1996 to oust Boutros-Ghali as Secretary-General of the United Nations. A secret plan we had called Operation Orient Express, reflecting our hope that many nations would join us in doing in the UN head. In the end, the US had to do it alone and Sheehan and I had to prevent the president from giving in to pressure from world leaders and extending Boutros-Ghali's tenure, often by our racing to the Oval Office when we were alerted that a head of state was telephoning the president. In the end, Clinton was impressed that we had managed not only to oust Boutros-Ghali but to have Kofi Annan selected to replace him." Richard Holbrooke wrote that the United States was opposed to Boutros-Ghali because of the latter's reluctance on approving NATO bombing in Bosnia. He notes that United States opposition to the Secretary-General was opposed by all its allies. Stanley Meisler, biographer of Kofi Annan, writes that Boutros-Ghali's reluctance in bombing the Serbs in Bosnia stemmed from French and British opposition to the tactic, as both countries had provided most of the UN peacekeepers and feared that the Serbs would retaliate against their soldiers. Meisler instead suggests that Clinton sought to veto Boutros-Ghali's second term to increase his own popularity, as Senator Bob Dole, who was running against Clinton in 1996, had got in a few votes by repeatedly denouncing Boutros-Ghali vehemently. In his own autobiographical account, Boutros-Ghali blamed the veto on a variety of factors including political pressure related to the 1996 U.S. presidential election, friction between the U.S. and UN over issues such as the Bosnian War and the Rwandan genocide, as well as tension over unpaid UN dues owed by the United States. Later life. From 1997 to 2002, Boutros-Ghali was Secretary-General of La Francophonie, an organization of French-speaking nations. From 2003 to 2006, he served as the chairman of the board of the South Center, an intergovernmental research organization of developing countries. He is currently president of the Curatorium Administrative Council at the Hague Academy of International Law. In 2003, Boutros-Ghali was appointed director of the Egyptian National Council of Human Rights, which he remained until 2012. Since April 2007, Boutros-Ghali has supported the campaign for the establishment of a United Nations Parliamentary Assembly and was one of the initial signatories of the campaign's appeal. In a message to the campaign, he stressed the necessity to establish democratic participation of citizens at the global level. Since 2009, he also participates as jury member for the Conflict Prevention Prize awarded every year by the Fondation Chirac. Bibliography. As Secretary-General, Boutros-Ghali wrote an agenda for peace. He has also published 2 memoirs, Egypt's Road to Jerusalem, about the Israel-Egypt peace treaty, Unvanquished, a US-UN saga, about his time as Secretary-General at the UN.